Hi there, this is Ariel. It's so nice to have you with me again. I love doing this podcast. I wish I had more time to do more of these because this is always the highlight of my day. So I hope you enjoy it as much as I do. Today I wanted to talk about some secrets to making your magic more effective. A lot of people don't understand how real magic is. I think a lot of times people that don't know what we do or don't understand it or just starting out in this kind of think that this is a silly little game that we play, or they think of it in terms of the psychological principle of magical thinking, which is not at all what we do. And that's sort of like the step on the crack and break your mother's back sort of superstitious kind of thinking. And that's not at all what we do. With magic, somebody explained it one time, and I thought it was very interesting. It's not that anything is possible. I mean, I think theoretically anything is possible. If you can conceive it, you can achieve it. I understand that. But let's not even think in terms of, okay, anything is possible. Let's look at it in terms of most people live in, let's say, a house with a let's say a 5-foot ceiling. So they walk around sort of slumped or stooped. But that with magic, you can have maybe a 45-foot ceiling, vaulted ceiling. Okay, that's how much you could be doing have, and that's how much you could achieve in this world. And most people don't even understand what it's like to live in a 6-foot tall ceiling. Okay, so with magic, it seems as though anything is possible because there's so much available to us if we learn how to do it right. And so I want to talk about some of just the secrets to making your magic more effective that maybe are not discussed as much, and I think that it's good to understand. Now, if you have no concept of how to cast a spell, this is probably not the podcast for you. This is for people who probably are doing some kind of magic, either mystical magic, mental magic, or body magic, some kind of magic, to just some sort of practical magic, trying to change their lives in one way or another, and maybe are not having the results that they would like. So here's some ideas about what you can do and how you can approach things that might make your magic more effective. One thing to remember is that the function of magic, remember, the way we in the Druidic craft of the wise define magic is a very interesting one. It's the science of the magi. It's the science of the wise ones. So yes, you can, in theory, have anything that you want, but using it, and it's fine to use magic to get things. You can get a new car, you can get a new house, you can get millions of dollars, you can get anything you want. But it's not the things that you get from magic that are valuable. Because remember, in the mortal world, it's mortal because it's temporary. Nothing that you get by magic will make you happy. You know, you can get $1 million, but that necessarily won't make you happy. You can get a new car, but the new car might make you happy temporarily, but it's not going to last forever because the car won't last forever. So your happiness won't last forever. So the idea of magic is not so much, oh, goody, I get to get more things. I get to get more things. Yes, you can get more things. But the value of the magic is understanding how the mind works. So we talked about the principle of vibration in an earlier podcast. How we vibrate mentally is how the vibration will occur in the physical. And we've also talked many times about how the mental world is the world of cause, and the mortal or physical world is the world of effect. And going into the world of effect to try to change the circumstances around is temporary at best, but it doesn't last. The reason why it's good to use magic to get things you want is to learn how to do it. It's much easier to learn how to do something by doing what you want to do than it is by doing some kind of exercises that are not fun. So if getting more money is going to help you learn how to do magic effectively, by all means do a money spell. If getting a new car is going to help you learn how to do a magic more effectively, do a car spell. If having your perfect mate is going to help be a way that you can learn magic more effectively, do a perfect mate spell. And yes, those things are fine to have, and they do help. They do help. It's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. But the things that you get from magic are not the goal. The goal is learning how to use the mind. The more we understand how to use the mind and how to strengthen our mind and how to strengthen ourselves magically, the more we gain in wisdom. And then we can start applying the strengths, the mental strengths that we've garnered, to very important things like the environment, like peace on earth, all kinds of things. Right? So yes, we want to start small just to build the muscle, meaning in our personal life. But that's not the purpose. That's not the end purpose. The end purpose is actually to be of service to the world. That's our real function here, is to be of service to the world. So that's one thing to remember, is why we're learning the magic is to be of service to the world. And to learn the magic, it's best to use whatever it is that your current needs and wants are, and to get those things addressed. All right? Okay, so the first thing that will help, and this is very important, and I don't think it's talked about at all in the books that I've read, and it's so important, and it's so basic to being effective, is the principle of detachment. And Aleister Crowley described this principle as not lusting after results. Not lusting after results. So in the process of doing your magical operation, when you're doing the actual spell, you got to get worked up. You got to really want this thing. You got to see it. You got to feel it. You got to taste it. You got to smell it. You got to want it. It's got to be something that you really want. So, but then when you're finished and you're not in the spell anymore, it's important to detach from the results. And this is why. This is the way the mind operates. Have you ever noticed, and I think I've used this example several times, so I do tend to repeat myself, but if you're listening to this and you've listened to anything else by me in the past, then I do that. So repetition works. Have you ever noticed that, like, say if you were on the dating scene, that you're trying to date someone, and you were really into this person, the more into this person you were, the more repellent you became to them, and the more you just let go of your attachment to needing this person, the more they were into you. That's just how it works. It's a law. Remember, the positive aspect of the positive side of the battery will attract the negative side of the battery. The positive side of the magnet will attract the negative side of the other magnet. Two positives or two negatives will repel one another. So after you're done with the spell, in order to be attractive to that thing, you've got to be detached from it. You've got to not care. You've got to not care if that ever happens. It's tough. It's a discipline. But I'm going to give you an example of how this works. And it's a perfect example from my own life. And I'm hesitant to even use this example because I'm sort of embarrassed about how this worked out. But it's just such an amazing example that I think it shows it just beautifully. And I'm sure that you'll see what I'm talking about. I was doing a spell for a car a while back, and I wanted a Cadillac, and then I wanted a Mercedes, and I got a Honda. But I was fine with that. I got the Honda. The Honda was a beautiful Honda. It was top of the line Honda. But then I got really clear that I really did want the Mercedes. So I kept doing this spell on the Mercedes, and then I let it go. And I literally let it go. And I was happy with my Honda. And I was driving my Honda. I drove my Honda for a couple years. And one day, this woman decides she wants to buy my Honda. She wants to pay me $1,500 over Blue Book for my Honda, just because it was a nice Honda. She wants to, and she wasn't able to find a Honda with all this stuff on it that I had. She wanted to, and my partner was like, "Oh, well, let's do this." And I'm like, "I don't want a Honda. I mean, I don't want to sell my Honda. I like my Honda. Just leave it alone." Well, he got this deal together. He got her to buy my Honda. Not only that, but he went over to the Mercedes dealership and got a deal together for a new Mercedes and came back to me with this offer. And I'm like, I don't want to do it. I'm fine with my Honda. I don't want a Mercedes. I don't want it. Well, the more I didn't want it, the more they kept coming down in their price, and the more the lady that wanted my Honda kept going up on her price. Well, it finally turns out that he says, okay, now you've got an appointment tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. at the Mercedes dealership to pick up your new car, so you got to be there. And I was even mad. This is not what I want to do. I don't want to do this. And then I remembered, oh yeah, I did a spell for this. So I went into the Mercedes dealership. I got the best deal you could imagine on selling my old car and on getting the new car. And I can guarantee, and I drove off with my new Mercedes. It's gorgeous. I love my Mercedes. I'm very, very happy with it. But I can guarantee you that if I started, after this spell, started going to the Mercedes dealerships and trying to sell my Honda and just was like working to get it done, it wouldn't have worked out so well. I had to detach from the outcome of this spell in order for it to happen. And what happened when I did that is I switched the polarity of that magnet so that it drew unto me that which the spell was that I had done before. By detaching, and I almost instead of detaching, I almost went too far the other way and kept trying to push it away. I kept saying no. I was getting angry. I don't want the Mercedes. But the Mercedes kept coming. It had to, because I had done that spell. I had done the spell, and I had switched that polarity so perfectly. Even I wasn't trying to, but now I realized what was going on, that I detached so well that it couldn't help but come to me. And so, and you can do that too. Remember that when you do a spell, you've got to get worked up. You've got to get worked up while you're doing it. But once you've done it enough, now, in Basic Spellcasting 101, some spells you need to do for several days. Sometimes you even want to do it for like 21 days straight. But once it's done, and you get that sense that it's done, you let it go. And you're going to let it happen. And you try not to think about it. You just know that it's going to happen when it's going to happen. And if it starts to cross your mind, and where you start to go, oh, I'm longing for this outcome, it's important for you to understand that you need to switch that polarity into one of detachment, so that your negative polarity can attract the positive polarity of the thing. It's a metaphysical law that your polarities need to be in alignment. That of your energy and that of what you've done the spell for have got to be positive and negative. And your negative polarity needs to be that one of detachment. And I don't care whether this ever happens or not, because I've already done the spell, and whatever happens, happens. Right. The other part of that too, that's beautiful, is there's been so many times when I have done that, and when the spell did come to me, it came to me in a form that was different than what I had originally intended, but it was a form that was much more of an upgrade. So that's an important thing too, to understand that the way we operate in magic is we're inviting a higher power. We're inviting our higher selves into the operation to say, well, this or something that's more in line with my purpose in the world. And a lot of times what that means is that once you get what you want, it's actually even better than what you could have imagined. But you can't get there without detaching. That's just how it goes. Okay, another thing that I'm sure you've heard a lot about, but we got to talk about that here. And it's also in line with the principle of vibration that we were talking about last time. And that is the concept of gratitude. Remember that, yes, you have to detach from the actual object of your desire, but your general vibration needs to be one of receiving. If you are not in a vibration that's open and receptive to that which is going to flow to you, which is another negative. It's another negative, and I'm not talking not positive and negative in terms of moralistic. I'm talking about polarity. You've got to be receptive. You've got to be receptive. Gratitude puts you into a wonderfully receptive mode, to where you are receptive to the highest possible frequencies. The highest possible frequencies. And we talk about making lists of things for which we're grateful and counting our blessings, and that's a very good tool. But anytime you're putting gas in the tank, you have some time to kill. Well, what do you just start listing them in your mind? Anytime you're in line at the bank, you've got time to kill. List your gratitudes in your mind. Anytime you're on a long road trip and you've got some time to kill, you can start listing your gratitudes. Right? Anytime you are upset about anything at all, it's time to start listing your gratitudes about whatever it is. I remember one time, speaking of filling up my body in shape, I'm gonna think good thoughts about myself. I'm gonna be grateful for everything and everyone in my life. I'm gonna treat everybody with love and respect. I'm gonna treat myself with love and respect. I'm going to become my own perfect mate. Once you're so involved in that, you forget that spell is out there. It comes when you least expect it. That's how it works. It's metaphysical law. You have to not be looking for it, or it can't come, because your attention is repellent to it. You must get so involved in raising your vibrations that so that your attention is on so many positive things that when that person shows up, it's like, oh, there you are. I forgot all about you. And then voila, there it is. There's your person. Same thing with a perfect job. Yeah. Now, this is not to say that you do a job for a spell for a perfect job and you go raise your vibrations and you don't, fax your resumes. Obviously, you have to do that. You obviously have to do that. You have to fax in your resumes. You got to go on job interviews, but you don't get attached to one job. You don't get attached. Oh, I got to have this one. I got to have this one. I got to have this one. No, you don't know what it's going to look like. You don't want to direct that, because you want the energy to direct itself so that it will manifest in the highest possible sense. Because remember, you're going to mess it up. If you start getting involved in it, you'll mess it up. Your job is not to know which job. Your job is to raise your vibration and have one of those, have the attitude of, I wonder what it's going to look like. It'll be really interesting. I don't know what it is. Right? Same thing with when I work with actors or singers, and they want a new part. Okay, well, that's fine. Do your spell for the perfect role, but then raise your vibration. Become the best actor you can be. You go to class, you work your scenes, you do all that stuff. You get your self-esteem risen to a certain level. You get your pictures and you get your resume together. You make sure that you are the best product you can be as an actor. And you go out on every audition you can, and you don't think in terms of, I got to have this part. No, you just go out on the audition because that's your job, is to go out and audition. And whichever part is supposed to be for you is going to come to you. It has to, because you've done the work. You've done the spell. You've raised your vibration. It can't help but come back to you. But the minute you start saying, oh, I got to have this part, I got to have this part, I got to have this part, you become repellent to it. I hope that makes some sense. Not only that, but say you did a perfect mate spell, and you got all into this one person, thinking, oh, it's got to be this person, it's got to be this person. Let's say that you were able to make that work. and you got your grubby little hands all over, and you were able to manipulate things into a certain way so that you did get to that together with that person. Say you got married, say you moved in together, say you have dogs together or kids together or something like that, and you're real enmeshed with one another. And then your perfect mate spell actually comes true, and your perfect mate is there, but you're not available. You're not available. Or you get into this one job that you really, really wanted. You thought you really, really wanted. Instead of being open to whatever the universe came your way, you manipulated and you got your hooks in and you got that job. Well, say that you were able to even do that. Well, once your perfect job shows up, you can't, it's too late. You're already involved in this other job. Maybe you're under contract and you can't get out. So you missed your opportunity. Why? Not because your spell didn't work, but because instead of having a sense of detachment and focusing on raising your vibrations and detaching, that you instead were so into manipulating your way into a particular form that you were not open and receptive to the perfect expression of that spell when it showed up to you. Does that make sense? So yes, we do our spells, but then we let it go. We let it go. You'll know it's right when it shows up to you, just like my car. You can't help it. By the time it comes back to you, it's just like, okay, I'll take the car, right? Same thing with the job. Okay, I'll take the job. So those are two so amazingly important tools, detachment and gratitude. If you can do those two things after you've done really, really good spell work, you can't help but be successful. You can't help it. So that's all I have to talk about today. Hopefully that was something of interest to you and you can use it in your life. We love hearing from you. Until next time, you have a wonderful, blessed week and make that magic just the best it can be. Remember those two principles. Three principles. Do your magic well. Be grateful for what you have and detach from the outcome. And I defy you, if you do those three things, to not have absolutely effective results.